Welcome to the online tutorial sessions for business studies. I'm your teacher Avnash Lambert. Today we are going to continue with our topic commerce, and today we are going to continue the topic commerce with the classifications. The classifications of commerce. So basically commerce is classified into trade and auxiliaries to trade. Now today we are going to cover the topic trade. It's the most easiest thing of this topic, of this whole commerce thing. So let's start. First of all, we are going to continue the topic trade. It involves buying and selling of goods. As you all know, in trading there is some buying and there is some purchasing of goods. Now trade removes, you have already learned that trade removes the hindrance of person. Trade removes the hindrance of person. What is the meaning of hindrance of person? Of communication between the producer and the consumer, as it serves the connecting link between the producer and the consumer. Is that clear? You already know that it's a connecting link. Now with the purpose of earning profit. Now it's a connecting link between the producer and the consumer, but with a motive, with the purpose of earning profit. Now the people who indulge in trade, they are known as traders or middlemen. Those people who becomes the link between the producer and consumers are known as traders or middlemen. Is that clear, students? I guess it's very easy. Trade, it involves buying and selling of goods. Trade removes the hindrance of person, as it serves the connecting link between the producer and the consumer, and with the purpose of earning profit. And those people, those who are indulged, those who are the link, connecting link between the producer and consumer, are known as traders or middlemen. Is that clear? Okay. Now students, the trade can be classified into two components. There are two parts of trade, which is internal trade or home trade and external trade or foreign or international trade. There are two components, internal trade and external trade. Let's start with the internal trade. It is concerned with the buying and selling of goods and services within the geographical boundaries of a nation. When you trade, when you buy and sell goods and services within the geographical boundaries of a nation, when you live in a nation and both the buyers and sellers belong to the same country, belongs to the same nation, then that trade is known as internal or home trade. Both buyers and sellers belong to the same country, then this type of trade is known as home trade or international trade. Now internal trade can be further classified into two components, which is wholesale trade and retail trade. There are two components of internal trade also, which are wholesale trade and retail trade. Let's understand the wholesale trade and retail trade, the subdivisions of home trade. First one is wholesale trade. Now what is wholesale trade? It involves, again, all these trade involves buying and selling of goods. But in wholesale trade, the buying and selling of goods are in large quantities. It's the key characteristic of wholesale trade. All the buying and selling happens with the larger quantity. No one buys smaller quantities. Buying and selling of goods in larger quantities. That's the wholesale trade. The wholesaler, the person who is indulged in the wholesale trade, is known as wholesaler. The wholesaler buys goods from manufacturer. The person who is manufacturing those goods, the wholesaler directly purchases those goods from the manufacturer in large quantities, and what it does afterwards, he sells them in small quantities. He buys the larger quantity and sells them in the smaller quantities. To whom? To the retailer. To the retailer. Who are the retailers? The small shop owners who buys who sells things to the consumer in a smaller quantities. So basically the wholesaler buys goods from manufacturer directly in a large quantity and sells them in smaller quantities to the retailer. Basically wholesaler maintains large stock of goods. He buys larger amount of goods from the manufacturer. Thus he maintains a larger stock of goods. If you have ever visited any wholesaler, you have noticed that there are a lot of stock of the same product. So he maintains a larger stock of goods. Now students, let's understand retail trade. What is retail trade? Retail trade involves again buying and selling of goods, but this time in smaller quantities. In wholesale trade there were larger quantities, but in retail trade there are smaller quantities. And a retailer, the person who indulges in retail trade, is known as a retailer. Retailer serves as the link. He is the link. The retailer is the link between the wholesaler, manufacturer and consumer. So the retailer becomes the connecting link of the wholesaler, manufacturer and the ultimate consumer, which are us, we the consumers. So a retailer serves as the connecting link between the wholesaler, manufacturer and the consumer. So he maintains personal contacts with ultimate buyer. You must have noticed there are so many small shops in our localities, in our colonies, and with them we have a very different kind of relation. We know each other, we live in the same society. So the retailer can maintain personal contacts with the ultimate buyers or the ultimate consumer. So this is the retail trade and the wholesale trade. I hope wholesale trade and retail trade is very much clear to all of you. Now let's come to the next part. The second classification of trade, which is external trade. Now what is external trade? It is concerned with again buying and selling of goods and services. All the trade are concerned with the buying and selling of goods and services, but this time this is between persons and organizations operating in 2 or more countries. Now here the buying and selling between persons and organization or business firm takes place, but this time in 2 or more countries. We are buying things from the other country, which is beyond our geographical boundaries, which is beyond our nation's boundary. So this time in the external trade, we are buying and selling of goods and services between persons and organization operating in 2 or more countries. And such trade is known as foreign or international trade. As the name suggests, we are buying things from the international borders. We are buying things from the other countries. So this is the external trade. Now, external trade can be further classified into 3 components, which are import trade, export trade and interport trade. Now let's come to the import trade. Import trade. It refers to purchase of goods from a foreign country. In the import trade, we are purchasing, mind it, we are purchasing goods and services from foreign country. We are purchasing. Here purchase of goods is the keyword. In import, we are purchasing goods from a foreign country. Let's understand with the example. Now, as you already studied in class 10th that India imports or India purchases goods, toys from China. China imports toys to India. So, purchase of toys from China into India is the case of import trade. China imports toys to India. So, this is an example of import trade. Exactly, India purchases toys from China. So, purchase of goods from a foreign country is known as import trade. The next one, export trade. It refers to the Sale of goods and services. Sale. Sale is the key word in the export trade to a foreign country. We sell our goods to a foreign country. Let's understand it with the example. Sale of tea. You already know that India export its tea to Japan. In this case, this is the example of export trade. It refers to the sale of goods to the foreign country. For example, sale of tea from India to Japan. Is that clear? Now let's come to the interport trade. Now this is something different. Interport trade. It refers to the import of goods. Here we import the goods for the purpose of export to another country. Let's make it simple. We purchase goods from a different country so that we can convert those goods into something else, into some other final goods, and we can send or we can export those final goods to some other country. From one country, we purchase those goods, and after adding some value to those goods, we again export those goods to a third country. That is the interport trade. It refers to the purchase of goods from other country for the purpose of selling of goods to the other country. Import means purchase of goods. Export means selling of goods to other country. Is that clear? Now, for example, India imports many commodities from European countries to export them to Nepal. India purchases so many goods from the European countries just to export, just to sell them to Nepal. So this is the example of interport trade. I hope this lecture was very useful for you. We studied about the classification of commerce, under which we understood what is trade. We came to know about the classification of trade, which is internal trade and external trade. We also came to know about the internal trade or home trade, that it is further classified into wholesale trade and retail trade. We understood about wholesale trade, that it is done in the larger quantities, and retail trade is done in a smaller quantities. And after that we came to know about the external trade, and it is further divided into three components, three parts, which is import trade, in which purchase of goods from other country. Export trade means selling of goods to other country, and interport trade means import of goods from the other country for the purpose of export of goods to the other countries. I hope this is very much clear to you. It's the most easiest topic of this chapter, and let's hope for the best and stay home, stay safe. We'll meet you in the next video.